Welcome back to Endangered Species Spotlight. This week we are talking about wood bison. So this is actually a video of a bunch of wood bison that my mother and her boyfriend recorded when they were up in the Yukon a while ago. So that's pretty cool. There's just a bunch of them running across this field here. They're in their big semi-truck, so they're not close to them at all. So, as I said earlier, those bison were videoed in the Yukon, but they can also be found in a bunch of other Canadian provinces like British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, all the way up into the Yukon and Northwest Territories, as well as over into Alaska. The woods bison are typically found in more northern areas, whereas the plains bison are more common in the southern areas of North America, so like the some grassland prairie states, as well as in lower parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. So depending on the area that they are found in, it can vary depending on the province, but overall they're listed as either threatened or endangered in most parts of where they live. This is largely due to both habitat loss and overhunting. If you're familiar with bison, then you probably know that when settlers came to the Americas, they decimated the bison population of both wood and plains bison. Currently in Canada, this is just the estimation for Canada, this is not including like the population in the States or anything, but the current population of wood bison in Canada is about 11,000, which does kind of sound like a lot, but historically, the bison population was almost 200,000 of the wood bison and around like 3 million of the plains bison, so it is sadly very, very decreased since then. So both wood and plains bison are a keystone species, but we're talking about the wood bison. So they play a very big important role in the environment in both maintaining the prairie plant population, so like grazing down the tall older plants so new younger plants can grow up, as well as helping retain the biodiversity by just if there's one plant going crazy, they help graze it down to just keep the plant population stable. Additionally, they provide food for a bunch of the larger predators there, so like bears, cougars, wolves, and all that, as well as for smaller animals that scavenge after a bison has been killed by a larger predator or dies of natural causes, so like smaller animals like coyotes or ravens or vultures that can't take down a full-grown bison, they still provide food for them after the larger predators have had their fill or after it dies of natural causes. In addition to being environmental keystone species, bison are almost everywhere also a cultural keystone species. So basically everywhere that bison and humans lived together, they were pretty much not the main, but a very, very important food source for the indigenous people that coexisted with them and currently still do coexist with them. So this head smashed in buffalo jump is a World Heritage Site just outside of Fort Macleod in Alberta, and I actually went there once when I was a lot younger with my mom and my sister, but I don't feel like digging through my mom's Facebook to find pictures of us, so this is just from Google. But basically, this was a hunting strategy used by the indigenous people. Every year or couple years, all of the indigenous people around that area would basically herd this bunch of bison off of that cliff there, where they would then fall and then the indigenous people would then harvest them and use basically every part of the bison, and that was like a big food and material source for them. So this is a actually very interesting historical site. If you're ever up in Alberta, want to check it out. It is very interesting, but basically bison are a very big cultural keystone species in providing food, as well as like the bones were used, the hides were used, the horns were used, absolutely everything was used for many, many purposes. So, Head Smashed In, Buffalo Jump, go check it out. So basically, bison are a very, very important animal. Obviously there's lots of conservation efforts going on in order to save them, which are actually relatively successful, which is a very good thing. And they are just very cool, very interesting, very important, and yeah, there we go.